Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Burning Platform. I'm Brian Sommer, and with me, as always, is Mr. Vinnie Mirchandani, the man who just lives to disagree with me on everything. Anyway, we're going to talk today about kind of a whole new world of management science that's evolving, and that thing got gasoline poured on it in just the last few months because of the coronavirus. So we're going to talk a little bit about the changing kinds of capabilities with which companies can manage themselves, the implications of that, and where they're going to get the information to run it, because it's not from the usual place and the tools aren't from the usual suspects. So Vinny, I know you're wedded at the hip to a spreadsheet and paper and pen. How are you seeing business going to change?
Brian, you should talk. You got dinosaurs behind you.
That was your house. I took that picture in front of your house a few years ago. In fact, I think you used to ride a brontosaurus to the old salt mine every day to go to work. But anyway, keep going.
Yep, you're the guy who had the cameo in Jurassic Park. Brian, it is kind of jarring, isn't it? Here you have Snowflake, biggest IPO in history, a brand new way of looking at analytics. We're talking to executives about all kinds of new supply chain planning issues after the disruptions we've had. There's going to be a generation of pandemic modeling, so we don't have to lock down entire states. We can do it by zip code if need be. We're looking at a whole generation of scenario planning, and yet people are just wedded to their Excel spreadsheets and traditional budgeting tools, and they keep, poor guys, just keep planning over and over again, call it continuous planning, but really we need a whole new generation, like you call it, a whole new management science. Unfortunately, technology is evolving to allow us to do that.
So I often look at the disconnect sometimes between what my clients do and what Wall Street is really all excited about. And if you look at where all the venture capital money and the investment stuff is taking place, the big IPOs, the Palanters, the Snowflakes, and others, it's all really around giant data sets and the tools and power that drives them. That's where the excitement is. And I'm sorry, folks, there's a reason why people invest in the FANG stocks, the Netflix, Google's, Amazon, so forth, and not in stocks around like old state, tried and true, like ERP vendors. You'll get some okay returns, but they're not going to set the world on fire. That's it. Why? That's the real question. Why is that going on? And I think it comes down to companies now have an opportunity to really jump ahead of their peers and utilize information that for once isn't accounting and transaction processing based. It's around a different kind of information. And I know people listening to this are going, come on, Brian, everyone's read a book lately or magazine articles. We know there's all this big data. So what? And I think it's when you put two and three things together that you get this powerful combination or combinative kind of technologies. And if I could, I would just say, here are my top three, I think, for going in there. There's incredible sources of big data, there's visualization tools, and there are other kinds of like columnar, row and data kind of tools that'll help you parse that stuff fast or near real time. What would you add to the combinative list?
To me, the biggest thing that's happened is we can capture so much data at source now. Sensors are generating data. We can capture customer experience data. I mean, I've written case studies over the National Hurricane Center. It's fascinating how they can capture moisture, altitude, wind, all kinds of data from multiple sources, sensors, hurricane hunters, and so on. And that's becoming available to each enterprise if we just try. There's so much external data available at source if you can capture it and not often use all of it, right? A lot of sensory data, 99% is useless. Knowing what to get from the signal from the noise is a huge skill these days.
So that leads to the next wave. It's one thing to be able to generate all this data. It's another thing to maybe parse it a bit, but it's why the focus is on technologies do a great job of detecting the anomalies, like you mentioned, and then empower users with workflow and process and exception handling kind of tools that already recommend what do you do when you do spot this anomaly, and what have you done in the past, and do you want the system to automate that? And the whole point of this is to, and this back to the management science point, it's to accelerate the speed with which decisions can be made so that profits can be really optimized and supercharged, and top line revenue can really grow when it senses an opportunity in real time, as opposed to waiting until 2 weeks after the month end occurs, and then you've missed that opportunity altogether. And you can do the same thing for mitigating a cost with like preventative maintenance kind of applications. Would you agree?
I would agree. And, the urgency, I'm seeing CFOs look for cash information on an hourly basis, right? So it's timeliness, and not just timeliness, it is the ability to then make decisions rapidly, right? So it's a whole brave new world, very exciting new world. I was so disappointed with our pandemic modeling because I've seen how the National Hurricane Center only evacuates 200-300 miles of coastline, right? We become so good at that. I look forward to the day when pandemic modeling can also tell us only evacuate 3 zip codes, right? And that same kind of precision needs to come to the enterprise where they can detect and act much quicker than they're able to today.
So and I think ever shortening response times are going to be better, and I also think that the companies lack skills, again, back to management science, about how do I know I'm just extrapolating past results and going to repeat the same problems I had in the past. When do I know how to break from the past and choose a different path going forward? And I think that's where we're going to have to create a whole different set of skills and workers and executives who are much more savvy about statistics and correlations and versus causation, and with how to really model and when to decide you need to go get a different signal because the old signals are no longer serving the purposes you need, and when do you fundamentally pivot your company to go in completely different directions, maybe to new offerings. Those are the kind of skills, those are the things I think people need in a big way. So Vinnie, what kind of counsel would you give clients?
Well, I would say, the use cases are right in front of us. We've seen that during the pandemic. New supply chain modeling, new pandemic modeling, new scenario planning, whole generation of agile decision making. And fortunately, technology is starting to become available. I think the shortage is in people and mindset, people being able to make those decisions quickly, and more importantly, being able to present that to others to show why they made those decisions. So I think it's an exciting new world. It'll take us some time from a people perspective to get there. But
yeah, I think the way I would phrase it in front of a client is, if you don't know what happened in your business for a month and a half after it actually happened, you're just not ready to do this kind of planning and scenario kind of stuff that you just described. You haven't even gotten your company to really think, act, and behave and have the technology to do things in real time, let alone to be creating the kind of capabilities that let you execute, months and years in advance. It's time to make some real changes, folks. It's really time to take a hard look at what your environment's all about. And if you're one of those kind of people that's been dragging your feet about, Brian, our spreadsheets still do a great job. I go, and how many do you have? And I remember one aerospace client I was at, they go, we use over 100,000 spreadsheets actively every single month. That is not how you run a modern corporation today. It's not how you run one during the pandemic, and it will not be the way you're going to run it going forward. Vinnie, you want to wrap it?
I think your background says it best. We really are in a dinosaur era in terms of analytics, when the future needs, if not 21st century, certainly 20th century kind of thinking. So yes, it's a brave new world. I'm actually excited, optimistic that we'll see some changes.
Well, as Vinny goes and digs out his green eye shade and his blue pencil, we'll bid him a fond adieu. So folks, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next edition of the Burning Platform. Take care.